Hi all, welcome to ESI Cloud Trainings. My name is Shalini Nerilla. Let's get started with Boomi Atom Sphere Basic Training Day 3 session. The agenda plan for today is we'll look into few conditional shapes, decision, route, business rules, branch shape. We'll then discuss about properties, which is a very important concept. We'll try to set dynamic document property, dynamic process property, and process property. We'll also persist a property value. We'll then see extensions concept, right? So let's get started. Now, in order to discuss about decision, route, business rules, I want to reuse this process in day 2. So first I'll create my day 3 folder. I now want to reuse this process in day 3. I want to copy this process from day 2 to day 3. How am I going to do that? Right? So if you click on this shape here, you'll see something called copy. Right? If I say copy, this will open up for me. So you can copy within the same account or across different accounts that you are added to, right? So because I want to copy within the account, I leave as it is. So if you click on different account, you can check this. This will be enabled for you. Copy passwords across all accounts, copy component dependence, and destination folder you can provide here. So I want to copy this to day 3. So I will choose day 3. So see here now, I have the process copied here, right? So now let me first execute this process. So this is executed. Now, if I click on the shape source data here, you'll see that this document has country equal to USA, right? And let me open my second document. And my country here is India. For the third document, country is Canada. So now we've got a requirement saying that only if country equal to USA, this path have to be executed. Else, this path should not be executed. So in that case, what am I going to do? Right? So now, so only if country equal to USA, this path should get executed. Else, it shouldn't get executed. So it is like a condition on a field value. In that case, I have something called decision. So I'll drag this decision shape. So decision shape routes documents based on true or false comparison of two values, right? So I'll select the first value. So first value can be anything among these. It can be the current data, date, time, properties, profile elements, SQL statements, etc. So now because I want to have a comparison on the profile element, right? I'll select profile element and my data is XML data. I'll select the profile, go to day 3 and account XML profile. So I have to select the field here. So that is nothing but country, right? So now country comparison, you can see here equal to, not equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, matches regular expression and matches wildcard. So now because I have to apply the condition if country equal to USA, I'll have comparison equal to, and second value also can be anything among this, but here I'll give a static value USA, right? So now let me also give a meaningful name to this. So country check. So this is done. True and false, I'll just use this stop shape here, right? So this is done. We'll now execute and see this. So the decision shape logic is executed once for each document that reaches the shape. So which means that, say if you have a document like this, say you have employees data, employees and employees is the tag, and you'll be having employee data, set of employee data. In that case, you must split and send the data to the decision shape, else it will only execute on the first set, right? So now if you click on decision here and logs, if you see here, USA equal to USA, which is true. So the document has passed through this path. And if I click on second document, you'll be able to see that India compared against USA, which is false. So my document has gone to false path. And the third check is also Canada equal to USA, so it has gone to false path. So this is how the decision shape works. So the true documents are processed to completion before the false document process, right? So next you've got another requirement saying that only if country equal to USA, this path have to get executed. If country equal to India, another path have to get executed. And if none of them, another path have to get executed. So if you have a requirement of this, then you have to choose route shape. So let me use route. So the route shape conditionally sends document through different execution paths based on the value of a specified field, right? So again here I'll be choosing route by the profile element, XML profile, day 3 account XML, and element is country. So this is done. And now I have to define my route values here. So route, if it is again comparison, you'll have equal to, not equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, matches regular expression and matches wildcard, right? So now because I want to select again, if it is equal to USA, execute one path. If it is equal to India, then execute another path. So see here. So equal to USA, equal to India. So India, let me put another requirement here. Say I want to send the file as it is to disk. Okay. So now I'll copy the disk configuration here and I'll use a set property shape. I'll send the file name as it is, that is there in FTP. So disk file name, and it is coming from the FTP location. So I'll choose document property FTP file name, right? So here I'll have to say set file name. So this is done. And if the value is none of these, then just stop the document. Okay, so this is my requirement. We'll execute and see this. So now if you click on route shape here and see the logs, you'll see that if USA equals USA, it is equal. So then this shape, this path got executed. If I click on second document, India, first it compares with USA and then it compares India equals India. So it's in a sequential order and then goes if the path is matched. The condition matched, then the path gets executed, right? And if it is none of them, so it first compares Canada equals USA, Canada equals India. If none of them matches, then it goes to default path. So document stops. So also remember one important thing, that it is a case sensitive. Now say for example, I said this as India. Now you'll see that I execute this process, see here, now if I click on second document, it has gone to default. So because, see here, if I click on route, India equals USA, India equals India. So it is case sensitive. It doesn't match this. So in order to do this, what I'll have to do here, I'll go to route here, and here I'll give all different values that it can accept. So see here, give a pipe symbol and say India. And comparison, you must change that to matches regular expression. So in this case, we'll execute and see this. So this is executed. Now if you click on second document, see now this is executed. So it matches regular expressions. India rejects India, pipe India. In that case, it matched the value, right? So this is how a route shape gets executed, right? So now so far what we have observed, we had a condition on a single element and we were processing the document in a single field. Now say you have different number of conditions to be applied. In real time, you'll be getting a mapping sheet where you'll be having n number of conditions to be applied. So in that case, what am I going to do? I have something called business rules. So business rules, in business rules, we can apply n number of rules to it. So it checks multiple business rules to determine if a document should be accepted or rejected. Right? I'll select the profile type as XML and select your profile. Go to day 3, select your profile. So now here I can define all the rules. So now say our first rule on country check. I'll just say here country check, and I'll add the input, add field, select your field, select country if, and here you can add a condition, right? Add a condition saying country equal to, not equal to, greater than, contains, does not contain, starts with, is empty, is not empty. So any of this can be applied. For our condition, I can say equal to, so I can say a static value here and give USA and say save. Also, I can provide my error message here. So what if the document doesn't match this, what is the error message you want to throw? In that case, I can say the country value is not equal to USA. Value provided is I can insert that value here. See here, country. If I click on country, the value that is coming up will be given here, right? So this way we configured a business rule for the country check. So now we have two branches here, two paths, accepted and rejected. So if it is rejected, let's stop the document, right? So now let's execute this. Also, I want to print the document that is coming here. I want to know what document is coming here, what the error message is coming. So I'll use a message shape. Message shape alters the document. So if you want to print any values that is coming there, etc., we use message shape. So I'll just say the error message is. So the error message is, I'll give the value here. So see here, if I want to print the error message coming from business rule, I'll go to document property. I will go to metadata here. So metadata, and there's something called business rules result message. So this is the message. So you'll see that a message shape alters the document that is coming. So whatever we give in message shape, will go as a document to the next shape. So usually we use this to print these kind of messages. If you want to send this as a mail, so that have to be in a message shape. Also for testing purpose, if you want to send any data as for testing, then you can send that data by using a message shape. So let's execute this. We'll discuss about message shape more in detail later. So this is executed. Now if you check here on business rules logs, if you check, first it compares the country against country check, country against USA. So result was true. So that's the reason this got executed. And if you go to second document, it compares against this country equal to USA, which is false. So rule executed. And the document here, the country value is not USA, value provided is India. So this value we have given as parameter value, and so the value coming in will be printed. So see here, this gone to rejected path, and till here you see that this is the document that is coming in. This is the document that is coming in with country India. And now if you click on the document here, this document is altered. It's modified. You can see the result message. The country value is not equal to USA. Value provided is India. So this is the error message that is printed. And similarly for the third document, the country value is not equal to USA. Value provided is Canada. Right? So usually we combine all these error messages and we'll send to mail. So we'll discuss that in detail in next sessions. But for now, just remember that business rules is used to check multiple conditions, right? So now we have applied one condition here on country check. Similarly, you want to add other rules. So usual scenarios would be that, say if a field is check if that field value is empty or no. Only if it is not empty, move it forward. In that case, I'll have to select that field. Say I want to select the field phone is not empty. I'll select this and add a condition with phone number is not empty. You have something called is not empty. Also, you want one more condition that phone should not be empty. Also, your first name should start with P, anything as such. In that case, I will select my name. So I'll select first name, add a condition. So here and condition, or you can also use or condition based on the requirement, you can add it. And add a condition with first name, say starts with static value P. So like this, you can give your conditions. Also, if you have nested conditions, you can add a group here. You can add a group and give other conditions here, right? This is how we configure our business rules, right? So you might get a doubt, what is the difference between business, usually asked interview question or certification question is this: what is the difference between business rules, decision, route? So we see that decision is used to compare two values based on true or false comparison of two values. And route shape conditionally sends documents through different execution paths based on the value of a specified field. And business rules, it allows you to check multiple business rules to determine if the document should be accepted or rejected. So here business rules, the advantage is that it can store multiple rules and conditions, right? So that's about business rule. Now, so now you have one more requirement, that you want to execute each path sequentially. So if you want to have several actions that want to execute in sequence, in that case, I have something called a branch shape here. A branch shape. So here you can define a number of branches, like between 2 to 25. So this can be one interview question. or certification question, how many max number of branches are allowed? So there are 25. So if you select three branches will be getting. So these will execute each path in sequence. So first branch I'll give to this path, second is this, and third is this. Right? So this will execute in sequence for us. So let's execute this. So see here, each shape is executed in sequence for us. Now if you see, you can observe one thing here. See here, the same document. So it sends the copy of the document to each path. Got it? So the branch shape sends the copy of the document to each branch. So see, this is the document, and also in second path you have the same document, third path the same document. So the same document, third as well, the same document will be sent. So this is how the document gets executed. The branch shape gets executed. Right? So now let's start with our important concept, properties. Right? So say now for example, I have a requirement. So now I have a requirement that the client said once after the file is placed from FTP to disk, I need to have a message printed saying that the file has been successfully sent to disk, and also the file name. Okay. So once after the document has sent to disk, I have a message here. I'll place a message shape, and I'll try to print the message. The file is successfully sent to disk with the file name. So now, where am I going to take the file from? Is it from disk? No, because disk we have modified. From the FTP, so we'll try to give the value from FTP and see. FTP file name. So now let me place this message here and execute. So this is executed. Now if you observe this shape is not at all executed because the document has ended here near disk. So the document is sent to disk. It's a send action, and so document has been sent to disk, and there is no action to perform next. So our message shape didn't get executed. So by this you can observe that document has been ended here. Right? So now you can understand the concept dynamic document property and dynamic process property. It is the usually asked interview as well as certification question. So understand that dynamic document property value persists till the end of the document. Dynamic process property value persists till the end of the process. Right? So now in our scenario, if I want this message to be printed, what am I going to do? I will be placing this message shape in branch 2. So as we discussed, branch is a sequential execution. And once after this branch 1 gets executed successfully, only then branch 2 gets executed. So only if branch 1 successfully gets executed, my branch 2 gets executed and prints this message saying that file is successfully sent to disk with the file name. So now you can execute and see this. So this is executed. Now you'll see that my branch 2 got executed and the message shape got executed. Now if I click on shape source data, I'll be able to see the message. So see here the file is successfully sent to disk with file name account1.xml. So as we discussed, like a copy of each document is sent here. See here, the same copy is sent here. So you'll be able to print the FTP file name here. But if you try to print it somewhere else after disk or something, I don't have this FTP file name because the document has ended there, right? So that's how this gets executed. And now, so now the dynamic document property, dynamic process property. So these properties are actually used, I mean, they can be used to temporarily store additional pieces of information about a given document, like the file name or any other information related to document can be stored for temporary use. Okay. So now we'll try to see the difference between the two. I will have the so there it can be much compared like say in Java, if you know about the concept of local variables and global variables, right? It can be most compared to it that dynamic document property is a local variable which can be accessed within that function itself, whereas global variable can be accessed across the whole code. So similarly, a dynamic document property value persists till the end of the document only, whereas dynamic process property value persists till the end of the document. So say the cases like say you want to print the file name at the somewhere at the end of the process. This file name or process name, all these are constant throughout the process. Say in real time you want to send a mail with the process name, with the file name. So all these are property values which are constant throughout the process. So in that case, these can be stored as a dynamic process property value. So at the starting of the process, you'll be assigning a dynamic process property like process name, file name, and assign a value to it. So these values will be carried throughout the process. And whereas for dynamic document property, say the value have to change for each document, it changes for each document. That case, the value will be stored in a dynamic document property. Okay, so now let me retrieve this message shape, sorry, the set property shape in order to set the property values. So I'll retrieve the set properties and I will assign dynamic document property. So I'll say dynamic document, so usually represented as DDP, and I'll say file name, and I'll also assign dynamic process property and I'll say DPP file name. So this is done and I'll assign value to this. So this is the value coming from the FTP. So I'll say document property, I will select FTP and say file name. Similarly for this dynamic process property, sorry, it's a document property coming from the FTP location. So I'll say FTP file name. So these two are assigned. And remember, these are case sensitive and should be provided the same name. So I'll just give a name, assign properties. So this is done. Now in my message shape, I'll try to print this. The dynamic document property value is, I'll say 1. And also the dynamic process property value is 2. So let me copy those values because they are case sensitive and should be given the same values that I'm giving here. Same name that I'm giving here should be given there. So I'll copy this and I will say dynamic document property DDP, and I'll give the property name here, and default value can be given if required. If you are not passing any value, this value will be considered. Dynamic process property, I will say DPP file name. So these two values we have given, and we'll see how it is working. So see here that the document have been executed, and if you see here, so out of this message shape, you'll be able to see that. See here. So first, if you see the set properties here, see the logs. So this has been assigned account 1, account 2, account 3. Right? The property values have been assigned for dynamic document property as well as dynamic process property. Now, if you click on message shape here, the shape source data here, you'll be able to see this value. So see here, dynamic document property is empty, whereas dynamic process property is account3.xml. So what is happening here? The dynamic document property value has ended here. So it is ended here. The dynamic document property value is ended here, whereas dynamic process property value is carried throughout the process, but because a value is being assigned each time, the latest value will be shown here. Clear? So dynamic document property value doesn't exist, but dynamic process property value gets overwritten each time, and only the last value, so account 1 replaced with account 2, account 2 replaced with account 3, and we can only now see account 3.xml as the value. So let's print dynamic process document property as well. So it ends here, right? So we'll see if the value is coming till here or no. So see now, if I use a message shape here, what happens? The document gets altered, and whatever I'm giving in message shape will go into disk. But that's not what we want to happen, right? From FTP, the file have to go to disk. It shouldn't be altered. In that case, I'll use something called notify. So notify only gives what value here that it is having, what message shape that we are giving here, but it doesn't alter the document. It still retains the original document. So here the same value that I'm giving here, I'll be giving there. So I'll say this. So I'll try to print only these two values. And I'll try to give these values here. So this is done. So about message and notify shape, we'll discuss more in detail in next sessions, but this is only to demonstrate this session. So now this will execute and see what values are coming here. So this is executed. Now if you click on notify and see the values. So let's click on this. If you see here what is happening, the same document has. So this is not altered. The notify shape doesn't alter your documents. So we are clear on that. Now if you click on logs here and see the dynamic document property value is account1.xml and this is account3.xml. When you click on second document, it is account1.xml and account3.xml. So we are getting account 1 each time because we have combined the data and set. So only one document is going there. Correct. So see here we are combining the document and sending. For that reason we have only one. So let me remove this combined documents. Okay, let me execute now again. So this is executed, and if you click on notify and see here, see account 1.xml, account 3.xml. On second document, if you click and see, it is account 2.xml, account 3.xml. Third document, account 3.xml and account 3.xml. So which means the dynamic document property value persists till the end of the document, and it is specific to that document. Whereas dynamic process property value persists till the end of the process, and this gets overwritten each time if you are assigning new values to it. Right? Usually dynamic process property, as discussed, is used for assigning process names, which a value which is constant throughout your process. Right? So whereas coming to process properties, so process here, dynamic document property and dynamic process property are only related to this particular process. They cannot be reused. Whereas a process property value can be reused across different processes or different folders. So when I say that, if you, it's nothing but a component that is created. So now if you see here under day 3, I try to create a new component. So under the list of components, you will be able to see a process property. So it's a component that can be reused across your different processes. So you can reuse the process property component, but not the values of it. So now when I click on this name, I'll say now you don't have a track of all the dynamic document property names and dynamic process property names, so that will be a little confusion. Whereas in process properties, you can give a list of all the properties at one place. Say now for disk, I'll say disk properties. So you have certain properties here in order to assign your disk name, disk directory, all other different values you want to assign. In that case, I'll create something called the disk properties. So I will assign properties here. So I'll say this data type as string. So we'll discuss about persisting, and label I'll give disk file name. I can also, so help text in order to identify, or in order to let others know what this property does. I can just give the help text here, the name of the file to be provided, default value. So you can give any default value that it considers in case the value is not provided. So allowed values. So if you click on values here, only among these values you need to provide in your execution. So it is like a drop down. You need to select only one among it. So we'll discuss about this. Disk file name, and I'll say disk directory. Disk directory. Also, say you want to give, say you have different environments like test environment, production environment, all these different kinds of environment, right? In that case, what I need to do, I need to give the environment name as well. Right? So you want to send a mail in real time. How this will be useful is, so you want to send an email in, you want to identify that email whether this error is occurring in your test environment or production environment. So at the start of your mail itself, we will be saying environment with the process property value coming from this environment value. So in your configuration, you will say whether if it is test environment, you'll give test value here. If it is production environment, you'll be giving production environment here. So in this way, this will be modified. You'll also be having one more scenario that, so usually in real time how they'll do, they'll be having for a decision here. So this can be used for both test and production. So if I use a decision here, and if I have a value with one value which says, say something like this, say I have used a value called process property called route here, the process property called route. So only if this value equal to on, the document have to go to target. If it is off, the document should not go to the target. So it have to be only between on and off. In that case, I will choose this allowed values. I'll say on. Label also should be displayed as on. and value as off. So if I don't give label, it will take the same. Between this on and off only, it have to select one, right? So now if I save and close this, and I'll just give here saying routing on or off, and I'll now select the property value. So process property, and I'll say disk properties I'll choose, and see here the help text, the name of the file to be provided, and route. So if I select route, and you'll see that it can be only one among on or off. So if it is equal to, so it's a static value again, equal to on. We'll see how to give these values. So here when it is equal to on, only then send the data to disk, to the target, else stop the document. So this is useful in real time when you say there is some maintenance and you want to execute your processes. There are n number of targets where you want to send your document only to certain number of targets. In that case, in your configurations, you will select only routing on to those targets you want to send the document to. So in that way, this will be useful, and it is really very good development configuration that it have to be done, right? So now if it is equal to only, it will go here, else it will go to false path. So this way we can give all related properties at one place, and you see here the process property got created, and this is the disk properties. So all properties can be given at one place like this, right? Now if I execute this, this is gone. And now if in properties, now my default value you'll see here. So as I told, only one among these two have to be selected. See here, it's a drop down. So allowed values gives the drop down where you can select only one among these two. And when I say save and close, so now the thing is you shouldn't send the document to the target. So now it will go to false path and stop the document. So see here, it has gone to false path. So this way I can achieve my scenario, right? So that's about a process property. So process property is a component that can be used across processes in that particular folder, right? And now, so you have one more scenario that say now out of Salesforce, I'm getting some data. Okay, it's a delta load. So once after the data is successfully loaded, from whatever the date I provided, the values have to come from that particular date. So there is a field value that has this configuration with the date range. So only those modified records from the values have to be provided, have to be extracted. So there is a check on this particular date configuration that I'm giving. In that case, what am I going to do? So I'll provide that value within the properties, and I will try to fetch that particular value, the parameter. I'll provide that value as a parameter and retrieve out of that. And other most common scenario that we use for process properties is capture and persist the most recent record date value from the actual records being processed. So this can be used as criteria for extracting records during the subsequent executions. So say now I've executed a list of records, and for the next execution, out from this next the recent documents, the other documents have to get executed. In that case, so we need to capture the most recent document that have been executed and the date value for it. So next execution, the document values that are having the date values next to them should be retrieved. In that case, what I'll have to do, I need to persist that value, right? I- I'll have to persist that value. So in the next execution, I will compare that value and retrieve records next to that, right? In that case, if you open this process property, disk process property, you'll see something called persist. Select the persist value across subsequent executions, right? So now I'll select the, I will create one and I'll say, so just for demoing, I will just say a number, persist number, or I'll say persist value, persist value. Okay, this is the persisted value. I have given something like this and I'll say select to persist the value. Okay, and let me give a value to this. Say I have given 100. Okay, so I'll say save and close. So now if I execute this, so let me use that somewhere. Let me set the value here. So I said process property, day 3 disk properties, and I've given persist value and give some value to this. Say I've given static value of 500 here. Okay, there is some value here. So now let me try to print that here again. The persisted property value is, I'll select persist value, right? So let me execute this. So this is executed and property value is assigned and it has printed here 500. Okay, so this is clear. Now let me remove that property value. I have removed this here, so I'm not having this anymore here. Okay, even then this value have to be printed. Generally, normally if I use the property value, because it is not assigned here, it shouldn't give any value here, but because we have persisted it, which means we have stored that value, and so even if it is not assigned in the property, now I should see the value to it. So now if you see here on the message shape, if I click here, I'll be able to see still 500. So how is it getting this value? So if you go to atom directory structure, C drive, Boomi atom sphere, Shalini, and go to execution, you'll be able to see the properties file created. So this is created at 12:30. So we'll click on modified date. So let me open this properties. So see here, this is the property created, the persisted value, and this is 500. So it stores in this particular directory and retrieves out from here. So if I modify that here, so I've given 1000 here, and now if I execute, it provides you 1000. And remember, Boomi process by default captures two dynamic process property or process properties, last run date and last successful run date for us. Two properties are by default stored, right? And now I modified that to 1000, and if I execute it from here, so see here now, if I click on message shape, I'll be able to see the value as 1000. So when you're persisting a value, which means the value is getting stored in your atom directory, and so it is getting referenced for the next execution. So this is how you persist a value, right? So you can have this kind of scenarios like in real time. So there'll be one scenario. The files can come in your source at any time in the day. So your process is scheduled for every 2 hours, right? And the load have to be done only once in a day. So your process should get executed and send the data from source to destination only once in a day. In that case, what we'll do here, so once after successfully executed the process executions, for the next executions the file should not be picked up and sent. So because it is scheduled for every 2 hours a day, you will use a you will use a property value at the end of the process. Once after data is loaded into your target, you will set the process property value to say true, and you will persist this value. So at the start of the process, you will be checking that value. If it is true, only then, if it is true, you will stop the process, which means the file has not yet sent. If it is false, you can process the flow. So this way you can have a check. So you have to have this true value persisted for the subsequent execution to check for the next execution. So in that case, we need to persist this value. So these kind of use cases can be used for persisted value. And also similarly for like process property, you can persist your dynamic process property as well. So see here, dynamic process property, you can persist this dynamic process property value as well, right? So this is a very important concept of properties. So usually they will be asking these questions most of the time, right? And now, so this routing value, you are changing this on and off in your code, right? You were changing in code, but at real time, if you want to modify the changes. And also for FTP connections, right now you have given static values here, but these connection details vary from environment to environment. For your test environment, there can be one credentials. For your prod, there'll be different credentials, so this will be varying. In that case, what am I going to do? So you see here something called extensions here. There is something called extensions here, right? So click on extensions, and you'll see that all the connections will be displayed here, and those you want to be extended, these are something which you want to give at runtime. You don't want to touch your process for changing this. So these are values that can be provided at runtime. So dynamic process property value also can be provided at runtime. Property values, so all this can be provided at runtime, right? So for all this we'll be using extensions. So if I click on OK, and when I say test now, say save, you'll see that text executions here. So you can provide the values. When you say use default, whatever you've given in connection during your development time, those will be taken. And if you want to override, you can uncheck this and provide your values, right? Similarly, like for FTP, for disk as well, you can provide the directory. Dynamic process property, process property. So process property, you see here, route on and off I can do from the configuration end. So like this, the values can be considered, the extensions will be used, right? So that we've discussed about extensions. So that's the end of our day 3. Now if we go to our presentation slides, so we have discussed about conditional shapes, decision, route, business rules. We have seen the scenarios for it. Branch shape, dynamic document property, dynamic process property, the dynamic document value persists till the end of the document, dynamic process property value persists till the end of the process. Process property is a component that can be reused across processes and can store all the properties at one place. And persisting property value we have seen to use across subsequent executions, and for setting the extensions, right? So as we've seen, for persistent properties, the data is stored in atom directory, execution folder, process id dot properties file. You can see the value, and you'll also see 2 other default values there: last run date, last successful run date, that are captured by Boomi. So that is also one in most asked certification as well as interview question. Where are the or what are the default properties stored by Boomi? Their last run date and last successful run date, and where are they been placed in Boomi directory is this path, right? So that's the end of our day 3 session. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.